So before we turn to those assumptions, what I'd like you to do is to also notice from the front page of this appraisal, you're going to notice that we valued this practice in 4 different ways. We valued it according to the fair market value of earnings. That's this present value. In other words, what I'm saying is $706,739 is the present value of the profit that you're going to earn from this practice. But I'm suggesting that profit is guaranteed to be wrong, okay? Because it's based upon projections, and those projections are guaranteed wrong. The capitalized excess earnings is a combination of an earnings approach, and it also is a valuation of the equipment. The equipment in this practice was fairly old, and so that valuation methodology is 454 because I'm suggesting in this practice it's not digitized, that you're going to have to spend, over the next 5 years, you're going to probably have to spend $150,000 a year. Not a year, $150,000 total to bring it up to speed, okay? Now, what I would say is that in fact, if all the equipment in this practice was brand new and it was digitized, it was brand new and installed yesterday, then that valuation wouldn't be 454, it'd be about 700,000. Okay? The third method is what we were talking about, that rule of thumb. That's called a price to revenue ratio. I've been doing appraisals for that. And I would also say that I think that practices should have some kind of a retirement plan. I don't think it's right to work somebody for 20 years and then put them out to pasture with no benefits. But at the same time, you're trying to maximize that profit margin into 42%. So if you provide health insurance and you provide pensions, that's going to affect the value of the practice, okay? And that's going to affect your eventual sale of the practice. Let's turn to page 9. Kind of amalgamates everything we've been talking about on page 9. You'll see up there we projected $1,053,000 of revenues. That's the average of the last 2 years. You see the expenses after all the adjustments are $572,000. The net revenues are $480,000. That's that profit margin of 45.6. Here's your opportunity cost to labor. If you buy this practice, of that $480,000, $315,000, almost $316,000 is your compensation for going in and out of the treatment room. That's for providing dental care. Every practice owner knows, or should, page number, let's just turn to page number 14. This SX earnings takes into the value of the equipment, and because it is older, the total the preliminary fair market value of the equipment is $534. I'm on page 14 is $534,000. Because this is located in a rural community, not in demand, we take that 15% discount, which is $80,000, brings us to a total fair market value of $454. If you turn to page 15, you see what I was saying about the price to revenue ratio. We projected the revenues at $1,053,000. The average practice is sold for 60.71%. You multiply that number, you get to $639. Take off the 15%, you come to a total fair market value under this method of $543. And finally, under 16, you can see that the profits, the normalized, what is called pre-tax earnings, are $154,000. The average practice is sold for 5.36 times earnings. That's $825. Take out the 15%, you come to $702,000. Now, just to give you a feeling for that, that 5.3% multiple compares to an IBM, which has a 15 times multiple. And the reason is because they have something depth of management. If the president of IBM dies, IBM probably isn't going to skip a beat. If you die as a dentist, that practice is in trouble because you don't have the depth of management. That's the biggest reason for those change in multiples. Okay. Now what I'd like to do is, and I would say to you that you see on your outline that we may make patient loss deduction assumptions, that For example, there's a doctor, I mentioned this doctor that passed away. Frankly, the widow has been traumatized to the extent that she hasn't been able to make a decision, and unfortunately it may cost the family $150 to $200 cash at the time of closing. And I understand that. I would too. But see, I have to deal with your spouse, and I have to deal with your father-in-law. You know, it's interesting. A doctor says, well, I don't like that contingency. I want my money. I said, let's turn the tables. Let's assume your daughter was buying this practice. Would you like the contingency? Oh, yeah. Well, I'm into win-win relationships. I want people to be successful. I don't want you at the day of closing to take your cashier's check, flip her the keys to the office, and step on the proverbial plane to Florida. We've put some transition terms in here, and I want you to abide by those. That's what the contingency is. Okay, let's turn over in the few minutes that we have left. And I want to look at this term page which says new dentist. It's right here. It says new dentist, and these are the terms of sale. What we're doing, this is a three-page. Basically, what we're doing is we're going to pay $550,000, and we're going to have a $72,000 contingency. Now, there's some other things that are critical as you turn to the next page. You'll notice that I've said that you should be able to get a lease of at least $47.60. What if the landlord says, well, that $47.60 a month was for the retiring dentist, but because of you, I'm going to raise the rent from $47.60 to $67.60.